Picture this. You're sitting exactly where you are right now, but instead of holding a smartphone or a cup of coffee, you're squatting in the dirt, chewing on a beetle, and honestly just trying not to die before sundown. Sounds pretty miserable, right? Well, that guy is your ancestor. He's got no name we know of, no shoes, and absolutely zero idea that you, a distant descendant with a mild caffeine dependency, even exist. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at something absolutely wild. You are just lucky to be here. Your very existence is the byproduct of violent coincidences and dodging some ancient, terrifying threats.
Seriously, how close did you come to never being born at all? Think about your ancestral chain for a second. It's this fragile, unbroken thread stretching back thousands and thousands of years. If just one of those ancestors had tripped at the exact wrong moment, got eaten by something with entirely too many teeth, or caught a highly contagious medieval bug, that's it. The chain breaks. You wouldn't be here. You exist purely because thousands of people before you stubbornly refused to die when they probably, should have.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to trace that timeline, looking at 74,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, the 13th century, and 1347. We're counting down the 5 absolutely deadliest eras in human history. We'll rank these catastrophic periods by their total impact on human population numbers and look at the brilliant and sometimes totally bizarre adaptations our ancestors used to survive.
Coming in at number 5, we have the Ice Age.
Specifically, we're looking at the last glacial maximum. This was right around 20,000 years ago. And let me tell you, the Earth back then wasn't exactly cozy. Huge chunks of North America, Europe, and Asia were completely smothered by massive ice sheets, literally up to 2 miles thick. Average global temperatures plummeted by about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The planet basically turned into a giant frozen wasteland. During this brutal deep freeze, historians estimate the entire global human population was capped at just a few 100,000 people spread out trying to survive. Your daily routine? Trying not to die of hypothermia, hunting school bus-sized woolly mammoths, and occasionally sprinting for your life from a cave lion. Your house was probably a hut made out of mammoth bones or a cave you shared with 40 of your least favorite relatives. But here's how we fought back. Despite living in a literal freezer with apex predators, Homo sapiens deployed some absolutely crucial technological adaptations. We invented specialized tools, mastered fire, and figured out how to sew animal hides together using bone needles just to keep from freezing to death. And we actually have the physical archaeological evidence to prove it. Take the magnificent early cave art discovered at Lascaux. Even while dodging 6-ton mammoths and freezing winds, our ancestors somehow found the time and the cognitive adaptation to create profound art. Moving on to number 4 on our deadliest list, the dawn of agriculture.
Fast forward to about 10,000 years ago. Humanity had what seemed like a brilliant idea. We decided, we're tired of chasing mammoths and walking hundreds of miles for breakfast. Let's make the food come to us. But man, this was the ultimate backfire. Welcome to the moment humanity accidentally made life exponentially harder. Now, the expected benefits of swapping a nomadic lifestyle for permanent villages looked great on paper. Staying in one place, growing reliable food, building actual villages. But the reality? While birth rates did eventually go up, individual life expectancy just completely crashed. Settling down unleashed an absolute buffet of new problems. Living so close together meant diseases could now spread like wildfire. A bad drought or a locust swarm, your entire village starved. And dropping diverse proteins for crops like wheat and barley led to massive vitamin deficiencies.
And we aren't just guessing about this either. The archaeological evidence is incredibly grim. When archaeologists dig up the skeletons of these early farmers, they find undeniable biological evidence of immense physical suffering. The bones show severe signs of malnutrition and anemia. Because of all those heavy grain diets, their teeth basically rotted right out of their faces. In fact, archaeologists literally classify these as horrifying dental disasters. We adapted to farming, sure, but biologically, we paid a massive, painful price.
All right, keeping the deadly countdown going, number 3, the Mongol Invasions.
Listen, if you lived in the 13th century and saw a cloud of dust on the horizon, you had about 3 minutes to panic before your city got turned into a parking lot. Led by Genghis Khan, the Mongols carved out the largest land empire in human history. Their technological adaptation to warfare was absolutely devastating. Imagine this: Mongol horse archers hitting a target from 300 yards away, all while riding at a full gallop. They essentially invented mobile warfare centuries before tanks were even a thought. Their strategy was brutal: show up fast, hit hard, and leave absolutely nothing standing. When we look at the sheer impact on population numbers, it is staggering. This wasn't just some local conflict. Historians estimate the Mongol invasions wiped out around 10% of the entire world's population. 10%! At a time when the global population was already pretty tiny, losing 1 in 10 human beings across the planet is an almost incomprehensible demographic catastrophe. Even today, archaeologists still find the distinct ash layers and mass graves of entire cities that were just permanently wiped off the map. Which brings us to number 2, the Black Death. In 1347, Europe received a very unexpected package from Central Asia, courtesy of some highly motivated fleas. The biological culprit here was Yersinia pestis. This bacterium caused the bubonic plague, and it tore through towns and cities like a biological wildfire. It traveled on rats, on fleas, and on humans who, let's be honest, had absolutely no concept of personal hygiene back then. Once it hit, survival became a terrifying lottery. A simple handshake, a shared cup, or literally just breathing the same medieval air as an infected person was a swift death sentence. You'd develop giant, swollen lymph nodes, a raging fever, and usually die within days. The population impact here is exactly what puts it at number 2. In just a few short years, it's estimated that between 30% and a mind-numbing 60% of Europe's entire population was wiped out, just erased. Archaeologists are still unearthing massive plague pits across Europe today. That's grim, physical evidence of a biological disaster that forced entire villages to be completely abandoned and collapsed whole economies practically overnight. So, how did humanity adapt to this invisible killer? Well, we kinda tried. Doctors walked around wearing these incredibly creepy bird masks. They'd fill the beaks with flowers and sweet-smelling herbs to block out what they called the bad air. Essentially, vibe-checking the plague was peak medieval science. It was a bizarre, desperate technological adaptation to a total nightmare they couldn't even see, let alone understand. So, if the Black Death wiped out over half of Europe and the Mongols erased 10% of the globe, what could possibly be worse than the plague? Honestly, brace yourselves, because our number 1 deadliest era brings humanity as close to the absolute brink of extinction as we have ever been. Number 1. The Toba Supervolcano Eruption. For this, we have to travel way back, roughly 74,000 years ago, to an event that nearly deleted humanity from existence entirely. When the Toba supervolcano exploded, it launched over 670 cubic miles of ash and debris into the sky. Guys, that is enough material to cover the entire United States. The environmental collapse was total. The eruption triggered a volcanic winter so devastating that sunlight was blocked for an estimated 6 to 10 years. Global temperatures crashed by up to 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Plants withered. Animals starved. Worldwide ecosystems completely collapsed. Early humans were already struggling every single day just to find enough calories. And suddenly, their food supplies just vanished. Landscapes turned into frozen deserts. Forests became graveyards. Just imagine spending your entire life in freezing darkness, wondering if the sun would ever come back. And when we look at the population impact, the total human population on planet Earth shrank to fewer than 3,000 individuals. To put that into perspective, that's fewer people than you'd find in a typical high school today. No crops, no animals, no sunlight, no second chances. Just a few thousand freezing, starving humans left on the entire planet. We know this because of genetic evidence. This apocalyptic event created a genetic bottleneck so incredibly tight that every single person alive today, you, me, everyone you have ever met, likely descends from that tiny handful of survivors. Their ultimate biological adaptation wasn't some fancy tool or a farming technique. It was simply a stubborn, desperate refusal to die when literally everything else on the planet was giving up. Let's bring this massive historical journey directly back to you. The miracle of stubborn biology. History is essentially a lethal, random lottery of violent coincidence. Ice ages, rotting teeth from early agriculture, Genghis Khan's arrows, microscopic medieval bacteria, and sky-blocking volcanic ash. But countering all of that is the stubborn biology of the present. You are the result of hundreds of generations of humans who looked at certain death and somehow survived it anyway. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly important thought. You exist because thousands of people before you survived the absolute worst periods in planetary history. You are the literal miracle your ancestors fought school bus-sized mammoths for. So the question is, will you make the most of the miracle your ancestors fought for? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Remember to keep learning, keep adapting, and make the most of your miraculous biology today.